Hello, my name is Marisa Vieira and I work at Brace Sustainability. Thank you in advance for your interest to watch this presentation. I will be presenting the work we've done to develop category rules for environmental footprinting of horticultural products. I am presenting this on behalf of our consortium. Let's start with the why. Why have we started the development of the environmental footprint rules for horticultural products? Well, as you can see, there is an increasing demand of environmental footprint information. Retailers are interested in knowing the footprint of the products they sell to convey this information to consumers so that consumers can make informed choices and take environmental matters into account. These press items show the general interest for knowing about the environmental footprint of fruits and vegetables in the context of healthy diets and also of flowers. So there was one standard for horticultural products, the PAS 2051, but there the scope was limited only to climate change impacts. And the document is already from 2012, meaning that all new scientific developments made since then are not considered in the PAS 2051 standard. For that reason, and to ensure a wide coverage of environmental aspects, and to also ensure that the standard reflects state-of-the-art knowledge, the PPS HortiFootprint project was started. So this project was initiated by Royal FloraHolland and the Dutch Fresh Produce Center and also the Wageningen Economic Research. It is co-financed by the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs, the banks ABN AMRO and Rabobank, and the Foundation Benefits of Nature, the MPS Group, and Glastuinbouw Nederland. Blonk consultants and ourselves, Spray, we are the research partners of the consortium, and both have been involved from the very beginning. Here you can read the motivation from the commissioners of this project, so Dan van Empel representing the Dutch Produce Center and Albert Haasnoot representing Royal FloraHolland, to the development of this method. When choosing the approach to take for the method development, the decision was easy to take. Since the European Commission has now rules to develop product environmental footprint category rules, a so-called PFCI, let's use those. So why do we choose for BFCI according to the PEF method developed by the European Commission? Well, first, it set rules specifically applicable for a certain product group. Second, it is based on the principle of materiality, so that means that we should focus on the elements that have the highest contribution to the environmental footprint, the so-called hotspots. Thirdly, it covers a wide array of environmental impacts, a total of 16 impact indicators at the moment. And the most important one, the fourth we listed, it emphasizes the principle of comparability, where if two different companies assess two different products following the same PFCI, you can directly compare the results of one to another. All of these is precisely what the horticultural sector was looking for. So, although we were not a project doing the development of a PFCR in the scope of the environmental footprint pilot phase, we still followed the most recent PFCR guidance to develop our method. So we started the project on March 2018, and it took a bit more than 2 years to complete it. We start the BEF method and did representative product studies on 6 representative products. Then we drafted the first PFCR and released this document for online and physical consultation. Then we improved the document on basis of the feedback received, and ongoing developments on specific aspects not taken into account yet in the draft PFCR were also done. Finally, in July this year, we released the HortiFootprint Category Rules version 1.0. So the release of the document is very recent, and this is why we are communicating about this at this conference, LCA Food, but also via other channels. Like I said, the aim of the document is to set the rules to calculate the environmental footprint of horticultural products and to do this according to the PFCR guidance that was available during the project development. So we did 6 representative product studies, and the approach we took was to make sure that different cultivation properties were captured. Namely, we took into consideration aspects like whether it was a food or an ornamental product, if it was an annual or perennial plant, if it was grown in soil or in substrate, if it was open field or in a protected area like a greenhouse, and we also took different climates into account. So this was to ensure a wide coverage and to make sure that all relevant aspects were considered when identifying the hotspots and drafting the first version of the document. As part of the work, we've identified 4 topics that needed further investigation. So those were more sophisticated transfer fractions of plant protection products, so pesticides, specific rules for modeling of capital goods and in particular greenhouses, modeling of N and P emissions, and how to handle multifunctionality of combined heat and power systems at farms. So we plan on sharing the memos also with the agricultural modeling working group running in the environmental footprint transition phase, because this is already an improvement compared to what it is in the current PEF method. So looking a bit into what we've seen from the RP studies, so there we have identified the most relevant impact categories and the most relevant life cycle stages. Those you see in green are those that were identified as most relevant for all 6 representative product studies. You can see that toxicity impact categories are not part of the list, but that's because they were not part of the normalized and weighted results. That was the guidance at the time. However, we acknowledge that toxicity impacts can be important for horticultural products due to the application of pesticides during cultivation. For the life cycle stages, only retail was never identified as the most relevant life cycle stage, and cultivation was important for all representative products studied. When it comes to the next steps, we would like to invite everyone to adopt the HortiFootprint Category Rules in calculating the environmental footprint of these products, and obviously to share also your feedback with us. This is only version 1.0, but we believe there's always room to improve. Members of our consortium, like I said, will also now be involved in the environmental footprint agricultural modeling working group. So it's a working group running during the transition phase, and we will contribute with our insights during the project, and particularly with the 4 memos that we developed and that I mentioned earlier. And we have now started the development of an official PFCR for cut flowers and potted plants in the scope of the environmental footprint transition phase. We refer to it as the PFCR, and we have the ambition to do the same also for fruits and vegetables if we have the opportunity. So why are we developing a PFCR for floriculture products now that we just released the HortiFootprint Category Rules? Well, the HFCR, we believe it ticks most of the boxes, but not all. So the HortiFootprint Category Rules was not signed off as an official PFCR by the European Commission, but the PFCR will be. And most importantly, the PFCR will list the environmental footprint compliant secondary datasets to be used. And the use of the same secondary data, which is mandatory in PFCRs endorsed by the European Commission, this is what will ensure that differences between assessments are due to company-specific data only. So fundamentally, this ensures the comparability principle, which we wanted so badly to achieve. So when it comes to lessons learned, we've seen that all life cycle stages were identified as most relevant except for retail, so engagement from the whole value chain is needed for sustainable horticultural products. We've also seen that there were various life cycle stages highlighted as most relevant. So to avoid burden shifting, it is important to cover a wide spectrum of environmental impacts. And we haven't used any of the two options given in the PEF method for RPs. So they were not real products, but also not virtual products using the market share approach described in the PEF method. What we've used was an approach to ensure sufficient variability and representativeness of important aspects in the horticultural sector, like I mentioned, that we did for the RP studies in the scope of this project. So we concluded that the rules for agricultural modeling need to be improved in the PEF method, and this is why we are now involved in the agricultural modeling working group. Finally, we would like to invite you, if you want to be informed, we can invite you for the public consultation of new versions of the HortiFootprint Category Rules and the draft Flora PFCR. If you would like, you can also play a role in testing the HortiFootprint Category Rules and the draft Flora PFCR, so with the supporting studies. If you are interested in any of these, I would like to ask you to inform our project manager, Irina Fervai-Novikova, and you have her email address there. Now I would like to thank you for your attention on behalf of our project team, and I look forward to the live session on Thursday at 8:30 and to read your comments and questions via the conference website. Bye!